Big L's life ended on a cold February night in 1999 when gunfire echoed through Harlem and claimed one of hip-hop's brightest young talents.
I was in my mom's crib and, somebody called me like, yo, you heard that Big L just got killed uptown? I was like, nah, like I just, kind of like spoke to him.
At just 24 years old, Lamont Coleman, better known as Big L, was already considered a lyrical genius. But the real shock wasn't just that Harlem had lost its hometown star, it was who was suspected of pulling the trigger. The alleged gunman was Gerard Woodley, a man L had grown up alongside, someone from the very same Harlem streets that raised him. According to police reports, the shooting wasn't random violence. It stemmed from long simmering street disputes and allegiances, with some accounts suggesting that L was targeted because of conflicts tied to his older brother, Leroy Big Lee Finazzi. Big Lee, a well-known figure in Harlem's underworld, reportedly had enemies, and Woodley's circle may have sought revenge through L.
I personally believe that Gerard Woodley shot Big L because he had a falling out with his older brother.
The betrayal cut deep. Woodley wasn't an outsider or an enemy from another block. He was part of the neighborhood fabric that shaped Big L's life. To many, it felt like Harlem had turned on itself. This wasn't the streets claiming another rapper in a random robbery. This was personal, an inside job born from the same community L repped so proudly in his rhymes. For Harlem, the killing was devastating. Big L wasn't just another MC chasing fame. He was already co-signed by Jay-Z and Damon Dash, who were considering bringing him onto their newly formed Rockefeller Records. L had released his debut album Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous in 1995, showcasing a raw, unmatched pen game. Critics and fans alike called him the future of New York rap, a torchbearer after Biggie and Tupac's deaths. Just as his career was about to break wide open, the streets pulled him back under. Despite strong suspicions, the case never brought justice. The NYPD identified Woodley as the prime suspect, but no conviction ever came. For years, whispers in Harlem connected him to not just L's murder, but multiple homicides. Still, he walked free until 2016, when he himself was fatally shot in Harlem. Some saw his death as karma, others as another chapter in a cycle of street violence that claimed too many lives. The tragedy of Big L is layered in betrayal. Betrayal of trust between childhood friends, betrayal of potential cut short by street politics, betrayal of Harlem itself, which lost an artist who could have rewritten hip-hop's future. L's murder wasn't just another statistic, it was the silencing of one of the sharpest lyricists the genre had ever seen. Today, Big L is remembered as a legend whose career ended before it began. His wordplay still inspires MCs, his freestyles still circulate as proof of his genius, and his story serves as a haunting reminder of how fragile loyalty can be when the streets get involved. In the end, it wasn't the industry, rivals, or outsiders that stopped Big L. It was betrayal from someone he once called a brother. Nipsey Hussle's betrayal came in March 2019 when Eric Holder, a man from his own neighborhood and one-time associate, shot him outside his Marathon store in Los Angeles. Moments earlier, Nipsey had reportedly told Holder that people in the streets were calling him a snitch. Holder left, returned with a gun, and murdered him in broad daylight. This betrayal was brutal because Holder wasn't a stranger. He was part of Nip's community.
Set him up to get knocked off, up, whatever he wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? You were able to get up on him so he never saw you as a threat.
Nipsey had invested millions into South Central, trying to build opportunities for the same people he grew up around. Instead of celebrating him, Holder chose rage and violence over accountability. Nipsey's death shocked the world. He had transcended music, becoming a businessman and activist. But his life ended not at the hands of rivals or outsiders, but someone he once knew personally. That betrayal turned his murder into not just a personal tragedy, but a symbolic loss for Los Angeles. Tupac's story cannot be left out of this list. His betrayal is rooted in the 1994 Quad Studios shooting. He believed the attack was set up by people he trusted, including associates tied to the music industry. Pac was ambushed in the lobby, shot 5 times, and left for dead.
But next thing, C's and Nino come back up and they come in the room like, yo, Pac laid down.
He immediately suspected betrayal from insiders, accusing figures like Jimmy Henchman and even hinting at Biggie and Puff's knowledge. For Pac, the betrayal wasn't just about the bullets, it was about trust. He felt lured into a setup by people smiling in his face while plotting against him. That night destroyed friendships, ignited the East Coast-West Coast war, and forever changed hip-hop. Tupac survived, but the sense of betrayal consumed him. His music afterward dripped with paranoia and rage. Whether or not every suspicion was accurate, one thing is certain. Pac's downfall began with betrayal inside his own circle, not enemies from afar. When rumors surfaced that members of Moneybagg Yo's old gang had turned against him, it was a no-brainer that he had been betrayed. Reports suggest that as his success grew, jealousy spread within his own circle, leading to plots against him. He publicly addressed feeling betrayed by people he once called brothers, hinting that those closest to him tried to sabotage his career and even his safety. Moneybagg didn't name names, but insiders connected it to old street ties in Memphis. Like many rappers, his rise brought resentment. Instead of support, his own people allegedly turned bitter, leaving him cautious about who he kept around. For Moneybagg, the betrayal forced him to distance himself from his past. While he's become a major force in hip-hop, the shadow of old associates turning on him remains part of his story. A reminder that not all enemies come from the outside. Lil Wayne's betrayal wasn't just news, it was the breakdown of one of hip-hop's strongest partnerships. In April 2015, during a tour stop in Atlanta, Lil Wayne's tour buses were sprayed with bullets on Interstate 285.
Shots were fired at the tour bus of Grammy-winning rapper Lil Wayne on the 26th of April. Footage from the NBC affiliate in Atlanta, Georgia, showed several bullet holes in the side of the bus, but no injuries were reported.
Dozens of rounds were fired into the vehicles, and while Wayne and his crew miraculously escaped without injuries, the attack sent shockwaves through the rap world. Investigators quickly tied the ambush to Pee Wee Roscoe, an affiliate of Young Thug's YSL crew. Phone records later showed that Roscoe had been in communication with both Birdman and Young Thug before and after the shooting. Prosecutors even alleged in open court that the attack was not random, but part of a larger conspiracy fueled by the bitter fallout between Wayne and Birdman. Though charges against Birdman and Young Thug never stuck, the implications were chilling. Wayne's own family may have wanted him dead.
Today in court, the driver at the center of rapper Lil Wayne's tour bus shooting testified. Prosecutors are trying to tie the shooting from nearly a decade ago to Young Thug.
To understand the weight of that betrayal, you have to rewind. Birdman wasn't just a label boss to Lil Wayne, he was a father figure. From the age of 11, Wayne was under Birdman's wing at Cash Money Records. Birdman famously referred to Wayne as his son, and Wayne, in return, called him Daddy. Their bond became a hip-hop dynasty. Together, they turned Cash Money into one of the most powerful labels in the world, birthing megastars like Drake and Nicki Minaj under Wayne's Young Money imprint. But beneath the glossy image of loyalty and riches, tension was brewing. By 2014, Wayne claimed that Birdman owed him over $50 million, stemming from unpaid advances, royalties, and profits from Young Money artists. For Wayne, it wasn't just about money, it was about respect. He had carried Cash Money on his back for years, only to feel shortchanged by the man who raised him in the game. The dispute boiled over publicly. In December 2014, Wayne tweeted that he wanted nothing more to do with Cash Money, calling the label a prison and saying his creativity was being stifled. Fans were stunned. Soon after, he filed a $51 million lawsuit against Birdman and Cash Money, demanding to be released from his contract.
Any that had any problem from my son on down, and I gave him $50 million. I cleared it up, brother.
Just months later came the tour bus shooting, a violent escalation that made the feud look less like a business dispute and more like a deadly betrayal. When prosecutors suggested that Birdman and Young Thug were linked to the ambush, the hip-hop community realized how deep the fracture had become. For Wayne, the attack cut deeper than any lawsuit ever could. Birdman wasn't just a partner, he was family. This was the man who had put food on his table when he was a child. The man Wayne had once kissed on the lips in a gesture of father-son respect. The man he trusted more than anyone.
You and Wayne had like a kiss thing going on.
Facts. I know you got a child, you probably kiss him. You probably got a son and you kiss him.
And now, that same figure was tied to a plot that could have ended his life. Though Wayne eventually reached a legal settlement in 2018, winning his release from Cash Money and reclaiming control over Young Money, the scars of betrayal never fully healed. Even after a public reconciliation in 2019, when Wayne and Birdman shared hugs on stage, many fans believed their relationship would never return to what it once was. In the end, Lil Wayne's survival was more than physical. It was emotional and symbolic. He lived through an assassination attempt tied to his own camp, escaped a contract that felt like chains, and rebuilt his career on his own terms. But the betrayal by Birdman and the suspected involvement of Young Thug's circle remains one of hip-hop's darkest examples of loyalty twisting into treachery. The betrayal of Lil Snoop was as senseless as it was tragic. In June 2013, at just 18 years old, Snoop, born Adarian Ross, was shot and killed in Winfield, Louisiana.
I'm standing here at the Maplewood Apartments where earlier this morning at 4 o'clock, Adarian Ross, also known as Little Snoop, was murdered.
His death wasn't the result of a drive-by, a gang feud, or industry beef. Instead, it came at the hands of someone he knew and trusted during what should have been a casual hangout. The killer was Tony Holden, a 36-year-old man nearly twice Snoop's age. Reports revealed that the two had been together playing video games when a heated argument spiraled out of control. What started as trash talk over a console turned into a confrontation fueled by envy and bruised pride. Moments later, Holden pulled the trigger, ending Snoop's life. The betrayal stung because Holden wasn't some faceless enemy from the outside. He wasn't a rival rapper or a jealous stranger. He was part of Snoop's orbit, someone close enough to be in the same room, playing the same game. For Snoop's family, friends, and fans, the realization was crushing. He was killed not by outsiders, but by the very company he kept. Just months before his death, Snoop's life had been changing in extraordinary ways. A gifted freestyle rapper with a sharp delivery and raw authenticity, he caught the attention of Meek Mill, who signed him to Dream Chasers Records after hearing his demo tape. Snoop's energy was electric. He could step into a room, freestyle for minutes straight, and leave jaws on the floor. Industry insiders saw him as a future star, a voice that could represent the South while carrying the torch of real street lyricism. But his rapid rise came with a shadow. In Winfield, not everyone celebrated his success. The contrast between Snoop's growing fame and the struggles of those around him bred envy. Holden's alleged inability to accept Snoop's new status and his own wounded pride in the heat of a trivial argument turned lethal. What should have been a night of harmless competition became a fatal display of jealousy and rage. For Meek Mill, Snoop's death was heartbreaking. He had championed the teenager's talent, calling him one of the most promising artists he had ever seen. Just as Meek had given him a platform, the streets took him back. Snoop's murder became a grim reminder of how quickly dreams can be destroyed, not by industry politics or high-profile rivals, but by betrayal within one's own circle. The tragedy of Lil Snoop lies in what was lost. His mixtapes and freestyles gave a glimpse of limitless potential, a young rapper fearless in his delivery, hungry in his ambition, and authentic in every bar. At 18, he had the world ahead of him. Instead, he became another cautionary tale, his life cut short not by the pressures of fame, but by the hand of someone who should have had his back. In the end, Lil Snoop wasn't betrayed by the music industry or by distant enemies. He was betrayed by the man sitting across from him, controller in hand. That's what makes his story so devastating. Success couldn't protect him from the dangers closest to home. In 2007, Stack Bundles was gunned down outside his Queens apartment. His death was widely believed to be the result of betrayal within his own neighborhood.
He had the dream team with them. Max B and Stack Bundles? Sheesh. Man, the rest in peace to Stack.
While no one has been officially convicted, whispers in Far Rockaway suggest jealousy over his success fueled the attack. Stack Bundles was part of Bird Gang and had ties to Dipset, putting him on the brink of mainstream success. But instead of support, he found betrayal at home. His killers likely knew his movements, striking him where he should have felt safe, his own building. The betrayal wasn't from industry rivals, but from those who saw his rise as a threat. Stack was supposed to be Far Rockaway's pride, yet jealousy from within his community robbed him of a future. His murder, like Chinx's years later, reflected how the streets often turn against their own when success arrives. Chinx, a close affiliate of French Montana's Coke Boys, was murdered in 2015 after a night at a Queens hookah bar. Police later revealed his killers were Quincy Homere and Jamar Hill, men who grew up with him in Far Rockaway.
Quincy Homere was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Prosecutors say he shot and killed Chinx while he was sitting in his car.
This wasn't random, it was revenge. Court documents showed a grudge had festered for years after an earlier shooting incident involving the same group. The betrayal here was personal. Homere and Hill weren't distant enemies, they came from the same community. Instead of celebrating Chinx's rise from the streets to national recognition, they targeted him, ending his life in a hail of bullets. Chinx was 31, a father, and on the brink of breaking out as a solo star. The murder devastated Queens. Chinx wasn't just another rapper, he was proof that someone from Far Rockaway could make it. Yet his own people, those who knew him since childhood, chose jealousy and revenge over loyalty. In 2023, both men were convicted, confirming that betrayal by old friends was at the heart of Chinx's murder. Tekashi 6699's story is one of betrayal on both sides. In 2018, his own 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods crew recorded him and plotted to rob him of money. Wiretaps later revealed they were also planning to harm him. These were the same men he shouted out in music videos and credited for his street credibility.
And then on July, Tekashi gets beaten up and robbed, and early in the morning after doing the Fifi video with Nicki Minaj.
But Tekashi flipped the script by betraying them back, cooperating with federal prosecutors. His testimony sent many of his former crew to prison. What began as loyalty ended in mutual betrayal. The gang turned on him for money, and he turned on them for freedom. The 9 Trey saga remains one of hip-hop's most infamous betrayals. It wasn't outsiders targeting Tekashi, it was his own crew, the same people he trusted to protect him. In the end, loyalty dissolved completely, leaving destruction on both sides. The betrayal of Bankroll Fresh unfolded in 2016, outside Atlanta's Street Exec studio. The shooter was No Plug, a man who once called him a friend. Their relationship had soured over disputes, and what began as tensions spiraled into violence. On the night of his death, an argument turned into a shootout, with No Plug firing the fatal shots. What makes it betrayal is that these two weren't strangers. They had been in the same circles, making music and building reputations in Atlanta's rap scene. Instead of brotherhood, the connection collapsed under ego and street politics. No Plug later admitted to shooting Bankroll, but claimed self-defense. Bankroll Fresh was one of Atlanta's brightest rising stars, co-signed by 2 Chainz and beloved for his street authenticity. His murder was a gut punch to the city, and the fact that the bullet came from a so-called friend made it worse. His death became another reminder that in rap, betrayal often comes not from enemies outside, but from those closest to you. The game's career rose under G-Unit, spearheaded by 50 Cent, but loyalty quickly collapsed. After the documentary dropped on January 18, 2005, the game refused to fully back 50 Cent in feuds with Nas and Jadakiss. 50 Cent claimed he helped write parts of the album. The game denied it, and by March 2, 2005, 50 publicly expelled him from G-Unit on Hot 97.
And I think Flex asked, what was Game's role in G Unit? And he said there's no role at all. He's kicked out.
The betrayal turned physical too. In a New York Hot 97 confrontation, the Game's entourage was shot at during a heated argument with G Unit members. Trust evaporated overnight, leaving the Game isolated in a world where loyalty is survival. Snoop Dogg didn't face direct betrayal from close allies, but industry conflicts tested his trust. After leaving Death Row Records in 1998, moves by some collaborators left him exposed to financial and creative setbacks.
Working against the devil, and through the grace of God, Master P and Priority Records, put a deal together, which was...
Allies sometimes undermined him through royalty disputes and poor advice. Still, Snoop turned betrayal into strategy, founding Doggy Style Records in 1995 and eventually acquiring Death Row in 2022, proving that survival in rap depends on knowing who's truly in your corner.